Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. Got a treat for you today. Going to be talking about a Marvel book. Maybe not a Marvel book in the way you might think, though. But if you're wondering why, hey, that guy over there, he looks familiar. Did you just have him on? Yeah, he was on last week. He was on last Friday. Talk about Primer with his co-writer, Jennifer Murrow. But yeah, we're here today to talk about a book he's doing over at Marvel. My pleasure to welcome Thomas Krajewski back to the show. Thomas, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah, so this is a Marvel Zombies book, and before everybody goes, "Oh my God, horror! This is terrible. I don't like horror." Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on record as saying this is the cutest zombie book that I have ever read in my life.
Yeah.
And a little bit of spoilers, everybody. Like the whole, zombified whatever patient zero going around and biting those initial people and them then infecting the entire city. Yeah, we skip all over that. We skip all
Yeah.
over that in a brilliant way. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I mentioned you doing Primer, Thomas, and I also sort of feel like this is a book that's aimed at all ages as well. This can be for younger readers. There's nothing gory. There's nothing, horrible. I mean, this is cartoon violence at best.
Yeah.
But it's just a whole heck of a lot of fun. So maybe you can start off by telling everybody how the project got started, how you had an idea for this, and yeah, that sensibility that you wanted to capture with, making it very accessible for even younger readers.
Yeah, thanks. I was in contact with my editor over there, Marvel, at Marvel, Lauren Bison, and she came back at me saying that she needed someone to write a Marvel Zombies miniseries. And I was like, yes, because I love zombies. I don't normally love gore in regular movies, but I like zombie gore and violence against zombies and all that kind of stuff. I love the scariness of it. So Lauren asked me to picture like a few different takes on what we could do. So I still thought at the time we might be doing more of like an adult classic zombie story. And I was really excited to do that. So I pitched her a bunch of stories. And then this one jumped out where it's Hulk teaming up with Groot. And then they told me they wanted it to be all ages. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I mean, as much as I love, classic zombie stuff, I thought it would be a real cool, fun challenge to actually make a zombie story that you can kind of read with your kids and introduce zombies to in a safe way,
Yeah.
So it was their idea to make it family friendly. And since I have, a massive background doing lots of kid stuff, animation, and obviously Primer at DC Comics, it just was like a natural fit. So from there, we just, came up with that 4-issue story of Groot trying to keep Hulk from killing humans, turning into zombies.
Yeah, it's awesome. So this is being released on Monday, everybody. So if you're hearing it, the first day or the second day that it's coming out, November 20th, issue 3 is in stores. Issue 1 and 2 out already. So yeah, definitely let your retailer know. Hopefully you can track down a first or second issue, pick up 3 this week, and they can order you an issue 4. Because again, it is a lot of fun. And I want to go back to something you said earlier, Thomas, about having a bunch of ideas, but the one that they latched onto was almost this. I don't want to say it's like a buddy story
Yeah.
because Groot and Hulk, I mean, they're both in a way. It's like Groot, the challenge is how does he, communicate when all he can say is, I am Groot. And we know the challenges with Hulk communicating. So they're such an odd couple.
Yeah.
And the only two that are sort of impervious to this zombie infection that's going around. They do have a mission. Groot has to get Hulk to Avengers Tower because that's where Bruce Banner's going to use the lab to find a cure. But I mean, so many challenges for poor Groot. What was it about teaming up these two? Because in my mind, it's not like a classic team up of two characters that I would
Yeah.
put together.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, originally I thought it would be more gore and violence when I did pitch this particular story, but I always thought it would be kind of funny in a way to have these two together. So it kind of naturally worked out that it would be even, funnier if we're making it family friendly because then we really can't have Hulk kill anybody, and that's all he wants to do. And as you said, yes, it's Groot's mission to get him to Avengers Tower. So it was a lot of trying to put the pieces together. Like, how do we make it scary, but keep it all ages? So a lot of that was just figuring out, the comical ways to make Hulk really want to kill people, and then what Groot can do in like creative ways to stop Hulk from killing. So, yeah, the first 2 issues are out now, and in the second one, he it's zombie Thor shows up and tries to like kill both of them, and then Hulk is really like enraged and he wants to kill Thor. So like Groot is just like, how do I do this? And then we do some other cool stuff in the third book, as you'll see, and the fourth book. But really, it was just it did become a buddy comedy. And I guess it kind of always was meant to be, but originally, yeah, like I said, more adult, I guess, in a way with the zombie gore. But it came out, I think, even better this way. So I was really pleased with it.
Yeah, well, the other part of this, and this, similar to what we were talking about last week when we were talking about Primer with the emotion, and it's one of the things I love about your work that you do for all ages. It never feels like you're talking down to your audience. I think sometimes books that are aimed at younger readers, they don't give them enough credit for how smart they are, how intelligent they are, but also emotional intelligence. I mean, we're all humans, we all feel things, and so and we develop our sensibilities for emotion at different ages and what have you. But that was one of the things I was struck with right from the beginning, specifically with Groot, because you have that challenge of language. He has a challenge of language communicating. As a writer, it's a challenge for you to communicate.
Yeah.
And a lot of credit to Jason Muir,
Jason Muir.
the artist, who's giving us emotion in the face of Groot. But even the other characters early on, before the sort of zombie apocalypse with Rocket and with Captain America, and then certainly when Captain America kind of scolds Groot. And again, we won't give it away, everybody, but there's a reason for that. But talk a little bit about the challenge as a writer to do that with Groot. When you can't really use vocabulary in order to convey these types of ideas.
I think it all comes down to the fact that I'm lazy and didn't want a character that I had to write dialogue for. So just I am Groot. I am Groot. Honestly, I just love good comedy. So to me, it just made sense, and it was challenging, sure, because I think originally, and then I realized that since Hulk is kind of like talks like a child and a baby, he wouldn't really care what Groot has to say anyways.
Yeah, true.
So they're not even really communicating at all. So maybe that's what made it easier. I can't quite remember. But to what you were saying earlier about the emotional part, yeah, thank you. You and I had talked about Primer before, my other book, and as I mentioned with that, just like this one, sometimes I like a good redemption story. And as you're talking about Groot with Cap, for those who haven't read this book yet, Cap is upset with Groot for something. And so Groot's like, oh man, I really let down the Avengers. I let down Captain America. And then he's like, how do I make this right? And he will try to make that right by saving the day, by getting Banner to Avengers Tower so he can make an antidote. And that's, I always try to put in some kind of real emotional element to all of the stories that I come up with in order to make them just more, I don't know, human, I guess, or just so the reader invests more. As much as I love just straight action and seeing cool superheroes fight and, defeat bad guys, I think it's kind of cool to also have those really character driven desires to make something right that they made go wrong. That sounds like Quantum Leap, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm a lazy writer. I steal everything from anything that's more popular than what I could do. Yeah.
But you know what, though? I mean, it's true because, and again, having this be accessible for younger readers is something we can all relate to, letting down somebody who, that we look up to. And so that's kind of what I love about it, even though, again, Groot doesn't have the vocabulary. Even the youngest readers that experience this, maybe, it's one of those books, everybody to make a great bedtime story, trying to get your kids to read, get them interested in something. But they're going to understand that concept. They're going to understand, hey, Groot's in trouble. He let Cap down. And it's very clear, again, credit to Jason Muir on the art, showing that, yeah, Groot is upset about this. He wants to make it right. So he's that much more motivated to accomplish his mission and quote unquote save the world, so to speak. But you also mentioned issue 2, which I've had a chance to read, and we get a Thor, undead Thor Hulk fight. So I gotta imagine for a lot of writers, comic book writers, that's like a bucket list thing, right? Like a fight between Thor and Hulk. Was that on your list of something? Hey, but when I'm writing comics, that's something I would like to write at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two of the strongest Avengers, obviously, growing up loving the Hulk and then, learning to love Thor, especially through the movies. and seeing how they kind of interacted in the movies. I think in the first Avenger movie, there's a Thor and Hulk, they got their stuff going on. So it's kind of cool to continue that. And since obviously, I think, with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies by, James Gunn, he kind of already set that comedy tone that I kind of just tried to massage into this fight as well, like with their dialogue and their snarkiness. But yeah, that really was kind of a dream to make, even just to write for Hulk. But there was that challenge there of like, how do we do that and not have it be? How do we have it be a satisfying fight that ends in a satisfying way, and that is hopefully also very creative? So I came up with something that I hope people will like when they read, as to how the day is saved. Groot obviously has to step in, so it's really up to Groot to do what he does. So yeah, I mean, again, keeping it so safe for all ages made me have to get even more creative than I would in the past, specifically with Hulk and Thor fighting to the death, basically.
Yeah,
So
it was so fun, and you really feel for Thor too. And again, I think it's something
yeah,
even
yeah,
younger readers will pick up on, maybe more so than anybody that's been infected. You can see him trying to fight it off, and you're just like, oh man, like you just want him to get over the hump, and he just does it. It's great.
right.
Again, we don't want to get too spoilery, but we're going to tease issue 3 a little bit here. If
Cool.
you're watching us on YouTube, everybody,
Nice.
you can see, subway car there. We see Groot, we see Hulk, we see some zombified
Yeah.
people
Looks
who are
like me right
infected.
there,
Yeah,
actually, in the bottom.
yeah, me.
Um,
Yeah, get home from driving through traffic. But yeah, tease a little bit of issue 3, and if specifically you can talk about choosing New York City as as the setting as well, because you really could have done this anywhere. Obviously Avengers Tower are going to be in New York, and a dense population, which suits a zombie story. But it goes back to that old cliche too of a setting as a character as
the
well.
character. Yeah, because the whole series starts off at the Raft prison, which is out in the ocean. So they have to go somewhere, and it just made sense for them to go to New York City, where we could have obviously a lot of people turn into zombies and give our heroes a lot of trouble. So New York just made the most sense, and it's pretty well known worldwide, and everybody knows it from the Avengers movies. So it's kind of like a no-brainer. But in terms of issue 3 and teasing what happens there, my editor, Lauren Bison, she was really good at reminding me to keep it creepy, right? Because there's a lot of action in here, obviously, but it is a zombie story. So I think it was her idea to kind of like have us kind of take the action underground, and so into the subway system. And so Hulk and Groot go into the subway system to specifically avoid zombies on the streets. They're going from one subway station to Avengers Tower, thinking there won't be any zombies down there, and then some zombies do end up down there, and they're stuck in this tunnel. Kind of like that old Hulk. I think they say it like the Incredible Hulk. You don't want the Hulk in like a subway tunnel or an encased subway car underground. So that's basically what Groot has to deal with, is like, okay, all these zombies here underground in a confined space. Hulk gets really mad, wants to kill them, and then he has to get them out of there. And then once he eventually gets them out of there, they face like a whole new giant problem. I think there's probably a premise online, or a blurb for who shows up in book 3. But another Avenger shows up zombified, and then Hulk wants to kill them as well. So yeah, so that's issue 3. But the creepiness is all about going underground and, trying to have some scares there and some cool, visuals, as you'll see, as to how the zombies show up. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is teased, everybody. I'm not going to say it here. You can go look for it if you want, or you can be surprised when you pick up the issue. Well, we've mentioned Jason Murr's name a
Yeah.
couple times as the artist here. He's doing a fantastic job. Was he somebody that Marvel suggested? Was he somebody that you were familiar with? How did he get involved in the project?
Well, usually, like with all of my projects I do for Marvel and DC, they always come at me with some artists, and they always ask for my opinion. And I give it to them. I mean, I usually love who they show me right away, and I'm not going to say yes to just anybody, but generally, my editors will come at me with some great artists. So they came at me with Jason, I think, right away, and I was like, yeah, this guy's awesome. And he's also super fast. His turnarounds are awesome. and he does stuff that I wouldn't have even, thought of. I really admire what he does and keeping it kind of still really like fun. His action, he just gets the action. When you're writing the scripts for a comic book, you're hoping that, the artist can really kind of take what you did and really understand what you wrote. So I try to be as detailed as possible, and he just gets it. So yeah, and then we have our colorist, Rochelle. I'm sorry, I forget her name is.
Yeah, Rosenberg. Yeah,
Rochelle Rosenberg. She's awesome as well. So yeah, it was Marvel's idea to hire them, and I mean, how could I say no? Yeah, they were perfect.
Yeah, you had the idea, the initial pitch for the story with Hulk and Groot and then that was the one that they accepted, and okay, you're going to make it all ages and what have you. Did you plot it out? Did you kind of know where the story was going to go before Jason came on, or was it a little bit after? Basically what I'm wondering is if the story changed at all based on just what he does really well, or if you kind of already had an idea and he's just nailing the original idea that you had.
Yeah, he's nailing the original idea. I never tend to write thinking about the artist's talent. It's like I just write the story that I want to tell, and I always trust the artist to get it, especially since I know who they are, or I eventually know who they are. Like with Marvel Zombies, I think I came up with all 4 issues, the rough synopses for all of them. And then I think they found Jason after it was all written. So it's not like I even could have been, really in wanting to, I wouldn't have wanted to change it anyways if he came on, basically, because I think we came up with a solid story. But yeah.
I mean, and it makes more sense when it's a 4 issue that you would have it done. I mean, I think a lot of times, I hear about writers getting the artist involved, hey, asking him, hey, what do you want to draw, or that kind of thing, or talking to him about plot. It's usually kind of longer form where it's an ongoing and what have you, which isn't necessarily the case here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably if they had probably set me up with Jason ahead of time and said, hey, why don't you guys 2 collaborate on what you both might want to do, then I would have happily have done that. Yeah. I think I just did my job, he did his job, and it just worked out perfectly.
Yeah. So that begs the next question: if they came back to you and said, hey, can we get a sequel? Yeah. I'm sure it sounds like you'd like to do it with Jason again. Do you already know what you would do? Do you have an idea? So maybe some of those other pitches?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, like we leave it open for a sequel. And it's funny because I think about this all the time. Like when I go to the gym and I'm on the treadmill for like an hour, it's like, how do I get through this? I think about stories for the sequel because I will still have to pitch my editor some ideas. And so I gotta think of what characters I can put into that next 4-issue miniseries if we get it. Because I don't want to obviously repeat this. It might, people love the Hulk Groot thing, and I'm happy to do that if that's what people really want to see. But I also might want to switch it up. So I do think of a lot of ideas. It won't be probably for a while until we even talk about that, and then Lauren will have to look at everything I come up with. Hopefully, give me a yes to one of them. But I am looking forward to doing the sequel. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. I came up with a bunch of ideas for this original 4-issue miniseries. And I don't think I could really use any of those for the sequel. So I can't necessarily just, steal from my own work.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, not to make it even more challenging for you, but the other part is like just the aesthetic. Like I was saying, how it's the cutest zombie story I've ever read. It's so fun. The other kind of side of the coin that would be really cool to see is if you got to do another zombie story sort of in this style with the same sort of tone, but have it be villains as the characters instead of heroes. That would be, so much fun. Like
you just gave me a good idea. Yeah, this is great. Thanks. Give me all your ideas so I can steal them. Yeah, no,
I think about like a Doom or a Green Goblin as, they're already sort of, monstrous a little bit in a way, but then now they're zombies too. It'd just be so much fun. Cause at the end of the day, that's what this book is. It's just a whole lot of fun, everybody. And, I mentioned earlier, if you have kids that you're trying to get to read, trying to get them interested, it's beautiful art. It's not over the top violence, whatever. There's not a bunch of gore. Nobody's eating brains. Yeah. And it's fun, and you can, draw them in and share it with them and talk about it with them. And who knows, where it might lead to. I mean, when I was a kid, I read tons and tons of comics, but I read a lot of, prose as well. So, just fostering that love of reading is really important. So, Thomas, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today about Marvel Zombies. as we're winding down here, I'll give you the floor. Anything you want to share with our audience? Anything else you want that you have coming up that you want to tease, or anything else you want to share about Marvel Zombies?
Not much else. I'm just really hoping that people like it. And, I'm like I'm happy to hear any criticism. I'm not the guy that thinks everything I write is perfect. So I have a very thick skin. If you think, you have some ideas or not ideas, but some criticism, tell me, because I'm always happy to change. Like, I don't think, I'm not very precious about my work. I love what I do. I like what I come up with, but I like to hear what the audience thinks. So, I just hope people pick it up and actually enjoy it.
Well, if somebody does have a question or a comment, where's the best place? Do you have a social media presence at all?
Man, I do. I'm pretty bad with it because I'm just like an old man who doesn't really care about social media. But I am on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm sure if you really care enough, you'll find me there somewhere. Yeah.
Great. And I'll make it easy for you, everybody. I'll put links to Thomas's Instagram and Twitter in the show notes. So, yeah, if you check out Marvel Zombies, I'm sure he'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah.
So, again, Thomas, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a blast chatting.
Dude, thanks for having me. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear anything you said about using villains as our
That was
heroes.
all you. You came up with that all on your own. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Thomas and I want to thank everybody out there in the audience for joining us as well, whether you're joining us on YouTube or the audio only feed. We appreciate you taking the time, and we'll talk to you next time.